and I honor that. Now, as far as sports go, first of all, I believe that everyone needs to be safe in playing sports. I don't believe that the purpose of sports is competition. I believe that we do sports for a lot of other reasons, and they're probably more important than competition. I also believe that there should not be any particular rule that's overarching about certain people participating in certain sports. Every sport is different too. And some sports require strength, some require speed, some require height. We're all different, right? We aren't on the same playing field all the time with people who are all just alike. And so I think we need to keep that in mind. I want sports to be fair and student athletes to be safe, but any ban that would be for a specific population of people would be inappropriate. I think it would also require invasive questions about people that are inappropriate. So I feel that it's an individual sport thing, an individual school thing, an individual group thing, that they make up their minds on what the rules are. Right, thank you. Lori?
Thank you. So my position may be just a little bit different, and I played in women's sports basketball. When we started, we were only allowed to play half court, and Title IX came and we got to play full court, and I loved it because then we got to play on the same level and the same playing field as did the boys. And you know what, I could beat my brothers in arm wrestling up until about 7th grade, but then they could just kick my hiney after that, and I had no chance. And so for me, I truly have, we have a transgender individual in our family, and I love him to death. But I would not want my daughter playing in a sport that has a transgender woman that is way stronger, that could cause problems with their safety, with challenges. So, but again, it is difficult because I want to acknowledge and respect people's differences, but I could not compete with my brothers, and I had 3 of them, and I tried every day because I didn't want them to outdo me. But in sports, I think that we need to respect women, and that we fought hard in that Title IX to have equal rights. And so I think this is a tough area, but I do stand that I think that women should compete against biological women.
All right, thank you. And Julia.
There are so many important things that we need to do in the state. There are so many important issues. We need to make sure our families have enough food. We need to make sure our kids have good education. We need to make sure our roads are safe. We need to fight wildland fires. Picking on transgender people is not important. It is just political grandstanding. And the fact that our legislature spends so much time focusing on what's in other people's pants is disturbing. I just think that we need to focus on what's important. I will say, I asked my daughters about this question. They were high school athletes. They're both very progressive. Like this new generation, they could care less about gender and sexuality of their friends, of their family. But they did say, yeah, if I was in a cross-country meet and one of my daughters was really fast, she would have never beat those adolescents that went through adolescence with testosterone as boys. And so it's not a fair matchup. Is it an important issue for the legislature to focus on? No, I don't think so. Is there some alternative answer? Is there some solution out there that people can come to that's going to make sports look different in the future? Probably. You know, maybe we'll have different categories as we move into the future in terms of who is in JV and who's in varsity and who plays what sport. I don't know. But I just want to reiterate that this issue is not necessary for the state to be involved in.
All right, thank you. All right, for the next question, Lori, we'll start with you. And Julia touched on this earlier, but I think we can elaborate on it, and you and Kathy, I think, have not talked about it. Should Idaho abolish the sales tax on food? And if yes, how do you propose to replace the lost revenue?
So this has come up multiple times in the legislature, and we have not passed it because we offer our people a tax credit on groceries. I did the numbers a couple of sessions ago, and with a family of 4 and what it would cost them in a typical setting for food, because all paper products and all that are taxed no matter what. And so, and I asked the questions about what would it cost to implement a program that we could pass to all of our businesses. And if we got rid of it, how are we going to replace? Because it is a big number, and I don't want to throw out something that's inaccurate, but it is a big number that we collect from everybody. Is it a regressive tax? Absolutely, and we know that. And so, but if we're going to get rid of the tax on groceries, then we have to replace it somewhere. We have been whittling down to try to lessen the tax burden on our people, but we can't keep doing that and offer the services that we all have come to enjoy and expect. And this is the fastest, one of the top fastest growing states in the union. And so we have got to figure out, I mean, I'm fine if we want to get rid of it, but we have to replace it. And I'm not exactly sure how we're going to do that without saying we're going to, tax everyone. I don't want to do that. So it's a balance, and we need to figure that out. If we need to increase the credit, and we have done that, when we could increase it again. I don't have the answer, but I do know it's a challenge.
All right, thank you. Let's go with Julia next. Julia, you touched on this earlier, but do you want to elaborate more?
Sure. I think you all know what I think about the grocery tax credit, or grocery taxes. I don't think that the tax credit is enough money to account for the 6% that families or individuals pay in taxes. It's $120 a year, which is $2,000 a year. A couple weeks ago, I bought a $47 bag of groceries, which it wasn't anything fancy. And so we know that's not going to cover people's groceries or the taxes they're paying. The state of Idaho relies on 3 things: property tax, income tax, and sales tax. Our property tax has been shifted so that the largest burden is on homeowners, and it has become a real problem for people because we don't get as much of a homeowner's exemption as we used to, which I can elaborate that out when I have more time maybe. We have a flat tax now on income, which is also regressive. It benefits the wealthiest people and it hurts the poorest. And then we have this grocery tax that is the most regressive kind of tax you can have. So it all needs to be balanced out. We need to stop putting so much of a tax burden on our working folks and on our poor and on our families.
Well, thank you, Julia. Kathy?
I have a partial solution. I think we need to look at the current list of sales tax exemptions that our state has allowed to happen. These have been going on for years and years. Some of them years and years ago were put in place by someone who felt like their product did not need to be taxed, and therefore they no longer collect sales tax on that item. We have, from what I understand, we gain about $2.2 million in sales tax, and we are exempting $2.9 million in sales tax. So that's unacceptable to me. And I started looking at the sales tax exemptions, and the first item on the list is aircraft. Now, if you want to buy an airplane, that's great. But people who are poor are not going to be doing that. If you're buying an airplane, you probably can afford the tax, right? So I would suggest that we go through that list. We have a committee, hopefully, that would look at the whole list of all the tax exemptions that have been approved of throughout many years, and really start to pare that down. And that's one way to get some funding back.
Could I just make a
Yeah,
quick
sure.
comment? I think you just misspoke. It's 2.2 billion and not million. It's a
I'm
B
sorry.
with a B.
Thank you.
Yes, I know you knew that. but
I'm sorry.
yes,
Thank
no
you.
problem.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that misspeaks.
Protect yourself.
Yeah, you bet. All right, let's see, who should we start with? I guess, Julia, we'll start with you on this one, and this will be the last question. Most farmers markets in our area lack the capacity to process SNAP, food stamps, and similar benefits for low-income customers. Assuming that farmers markets elsewhere in the state are similarly limited, as a legislator, would you support the development of a centralized system to outsource food benefits management for farmers markets that want it? It's a complicated question.
Yeah, that's a pretty complicated question.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. When you're on city council, you are on different citizen commissions. So I talked about being on CETA, and I also happen to be on the Farmers Market Commission for Moscow. So this is something that we have just dealt with in Moscow. Processing the SNAP benefits is a pain. And so in the past, we had a nonprofit that was willing to do that work. They have gone out of business. And now we are working with the Moscow Food Co-op to take over that role so that they can process SNAP benefits at the market. So if you want to process SNAP benefits at the market, you can do that. You just have to be willing to learn the system and do that kind of paperwork, and that can be done if you're a 501(c)(3) nonprofit or if you're a business that already takes SNAP benefits. So I would encourage farmers markets to partner with a local business that is willing to take those SNAP benefits.
Okay, thank you. Kathy?
I'm glad Julia is very familiar with this. I know nothing about it, but it seems to me like a great idea. And I would encourage other communities in the state to look at this example and follow it. It seems like a doable thing and something that we need to do because there's so many people who want fresh food and good food. They can't get it other ways. So I totally agree with doing that.
All right, thank you. Lauren?
Thank you. I as well. And I just want to commend Moscow because your farmer's market is head and shoulders above any that I have gone to. And I love to go to farmers markets and flea markets. You guys have really got it going on. Lewiston's trying, and they're way, way behind Moscow, but the SNAP benefits, I think if you are able and you are willing to go through the process because it's available, by all means, I think that it should be something, and maybe one organization could kind of really get that going for everyone and help sit down with all of the folks who are involved and kind of show them the ropes, because I think that that's so important for folks to be able to utilize that if they can.
All right, thank you. I said that was the last question, but we actually have time. So, so let's take another one. Do you believe that you must show an ID to vote? Kathy, I'm going to let you start with this one because I think you have some thoughts on this.
I think it's probably a good idea to show an ID to vote, but the current law is so difficult for many people to get that ID that it needs to be revised. The ID that could be used is a current Idaho driver's license. That's listed as one option. Another option is a concealed weapons permit, which, by the way, doesn't require a birth certificate or anything, but your driver's license does. And what happens is that, the third option is a free ID from the DMV. However, nothing is free because you have to get a birth certificate for that too. I have personally talked to many, many people who are having trouble getting an ID to use to vote. And it's because of this new law that was actually sponsored by my opponent, Brandon Mitchell. There are people who are homebound. They cannot get out of bed. They want to vote. I know two people offhand that we've been working with for many months now to try and get their birth certificate and to get a photograph of them because they cannot go to the DMV to get a photograph and to get their ID. We finally found, after talking and asking, that we got the DMV here to go to the home and take a photograph. This is an issue, and I don't think people realize that it's not just student IDs that were eliminated. It is this whole process of getting a photo ID that is acceptable. So we need to work on that.
Yeah, thank you. Lori?
Thank you. So I do support that you should show identification to vote. You need to be a United States citizen to vote, and your driver's license now can show that you are a U.S. citizen. So there has been some good things that have come with that. But if there are some challenges, as Kathy says, then we need to address those and fix them. And so those might not be things that were thought about. And sometimes there's unintended consequences that come with a bill. So if that is a challenge, then I'd like to see that come forward to the Secretary of State and take a look at that, because this bill went all the way to the Supreme Court, and it recently came back that it was upheld, but that doesn't mean that it should end there, and we need to continue to work to find the best options for our people. And if we've got homebound folks, then we need to figure that out and how we can help them. So, and I would be definitely willing to work on that.
All right, thank you. Julia?
I try not to be too partisan most of the time, because I think you should vote for the person and not the letter. But I am proud to be part of a party who wants to make voting easier and not harder. I think that we probably should have some kind of ID at the polls. I am nostalgic for the days when you just went and signed your name and it was an honor system. Excuse me. But I know that that's just not gonna work anymore. This is another example of an unnecessary bill. You know, we do not have a huge amount of voter fraud. We hardly have any voter fraud. It is not affecting our elections. It is a boogeyman that has been put forth by particular people that don't like the election results. And so I would encourage you all to look into the reality of voting, who votes, who doesn't vote, and know that our election systems are secure, and that this kind of legislation that just makes it harder for young people and the elderly to vote and people who are disabled was not necessary and should never have been passed.
All right, thank you. All right, closing comments. So, Lori, let's start with you. And I think we do have some extra time, so if you want to take up to 2 minutes, we can do that.
Okay, thank you. So thank you again for all of you for being voters that care, voters that want to hear what representatives and senators and so forth, what we believe and what we would like to do to help our communities become better places. I bring over my 45-year plus career to the table, running small businesses, understanding what it takes, being hands-on in a career in cattle and farming. And District 6, that is so crucial in our district. I will tirelessly continue to look and search for solutions to problems that are in District 6. There are certain things that we have got to find Idaho solutions for Idaho problems. One of which is our voucher system. We did not get to that tonight very much, but we've got to find a solution there. I will continue to push for business policies for our small and our large business sectors because they're both so critical to our economic development in our communities. So I will continue to work hard. Know that I don't always stand with the GOP on issues because I believe again in the people and I listen to the people. And if you are one who likes to email, you'll know that I work hard to send responses. We may not always agree, but I will listen because that is extremely important. So I'm Lori McCann, and I hope that I can earn your trust and your support and your vote on November 5th. And thank you again for being here.
All right, thank you. Julia? You can have up to 2 minutes.
Great, I'm glad we have extra time because I found this quote and I was trying to figure out how to use it somewhere, so I'm just gonna read it to you. Hate has talked so loudly for so long. Greed has talked so loudly for so long. Liars have talked so loudly for so long. Love has got to stop whispering. That's from Marianne Williamson. When I started my campaign and I talked to people about why I was running, I would say, I'm running because I love my community and I love the state of Idaho and I know that we deserve better. So thank you for including me in your forum tonight and for taking the time to be informed voters. I believe leadership is about dialogue, it's about analysis, it's about values and consideration. We're a diverse society, even here in Idaho, and I would never expect us to all agree on everything. But one thing I will promise is that I will listen to different voices in our state and in this district. I believe our state government should be limited